everyone, welcome back. We just finished 10.4 and now we're going to dive in to 10.5, which is fractions on a number line greater than 1. Okay, so if you remember from 10.4, we transitioned our thinking from looking and understanding fractions of a shape into understanding fractions as a number as part of and plotting that onto a number line. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, some more of that today, but these numbers are going to end up being bigger or greater than the number 1. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and we will go ahead and dive right in. So chapter 10, section 5, or lesson 5, begins on page 469, and I'm going to start with the explore and grow. So on the explore and grow, it says divide each circle into halves, shade 3 halves, and then write the fraction. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to draw my 2 circles. 1, 2. And because I know that I'm going to be turning it into a fraction, I'm going to go ahead and write my fraction bar. Looks like a little face. All right. So divide each circle into halves. I know that halves means 2, back from our 10.1 where we were giving names. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and divide it into halves. And I'm going to shade 3 of my halves. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Here's 1, 2, and 3. And now we have to write the fraction. Well, the fraction denominator, okay, if you remember, is the number of equal parts that we're looking at. We are only looking at 2 equal parts, okay? The total number of equal parts that we're looking at is 2, all right? And how many did we focus in on? How many did we shade? We shaded in 3 of the 2 halves, okay? Now, a common error is we typically see, okay, I've got 2 circles and 1 circle, and I essentially put it into 3. Like, why do I have 3 halves, okay? Well, here's the thing. I know you're seeing 4 sections total, okay? You see 1, 2, 3, 4. You're seeing 4 sections. However, we're only looking at 4 halves. We need to see 1 circle is 1 whole, not both circles is 1 whole. Okay, so this circle is 1 whole, and this circle is 1 whole. And they are each divided equally into halves. Okay? All right. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep moving and see if it makes a little bit more sense. I know it's kind of a confusing concept, but we are looking at 1 whole and 1 whole. I divided it equally into halves. I didn't divide 1 into 4s. And then I shaded in my halves, so I've got 3 halves. So now we have to plot 3 halves, or 3 over 2, onto a number line, okay? And what do we notice? So I'm going to draw or write my fraction up here. So my fraction is 3 halves, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my number line. Okay, and so on the number line, like always, they give us the 0 tick, they give us the 1 tick, which is different from last lesson. When we were working last lesson, all of our numbers were based 0 to 1. Well, these are now going to be greater than 1, okay? So they also give us the 2 tick, okay? And then they give us a tick right here with the fraction bar over 2, and a tick right here with the fraction bar over 2. Okay. We need to fill it in. Well, think about our first whole, okay? Our first circle, so I'm just going to do a little half circle here. And we split it into half, right at that tick mark. This was a half, and this was a half, okay? So we are looking at this whole circle right here, okay? And I split it into halves, okay? So this one whole equals 1. Half of that goes right here on this tick, and I've got a 1/2. If it helps, and you remember that when we got to 1, we got to our first 1 whole, in the last lesson we said it was 4/4, 3/3, 6/6. Well, here it's going to be 2/2. And I'm just going to write that kind of small so you can make note of it if you want, but you don't have to, okay? But now we're moving on to our second circle, and I'm going to do that in a different color so we're still together. So my second whole is split down the middle, and I've got 1/2 and 1/2. Okay, so now we're looking at this circle. We've got 1/2 and 1/2. Well, we already have 1 whole. So we've got 1/2, 2/2, or 1 whole, plus more. So this is now 3/2. And then to make 2 wholes, it would be 4/2. Okay, because we stopped and needed to label the 3/2 right here. So now we need to plot, okay? Remember, our plot is just giving one big circle right there, right on the number or fraction that we're talking about, and we're talking about 3/2. Okay, so I plotted that right there. And then it says, what do you notice and explain? Well, what I notice is 3/2, or 3/2, is greater. 3/2 is greater than 1, okay? At least in this situation. And 3/2, or 3/2, is the same as 1 whole plus an additional half, okay? So let's do one more example and see how that goes. So I'm going to erase all of this. And if you remember from the last video and even the last couple of videos, I did say that I loved drawing pictures with my fractions. It really helps me understand what's going on. So now I'm on page 470, and we're on the Think and Grow. And it says, when a numerator is greater than the denominator, the fraction is greater than 1 whole. And it gives you an awesome picture. Okay, it says each square is 1 whole, so both the squares there are equal to 1 whole. 6 1/4 are shaded in, and then 2/4 of the other square is shaded in, so 6/4 all together are shaded in. You can show you can show fractions greater than 1 on a number line, which is really what we're going to do here, okay? So it says plot 6/4 on the number line. Okay, so I'm going to draw my number line to look as much like theirs as possible, and then we will go through each step. All right, so this is awesome. It already breaks everything into fourths for you, but I am going to draw my 0 tick, my 1 tick, and my 2 tick, okay? And then I'm going to draw the picture like they did. And I'm going to split each section so I have 4 equal shares because we are looking at fourths. And the reason that I know we're looking at fourths is because the denominator is 6/4. And remember, the denominator is how many equal shares make up one whole. 4 equal shares make up one whole. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in 1/4. And this marks the one whole, or 4/4. Okay, sometimes that's helpful just so you can keep in mind. So that is one share, or one whole, right there. And then we're on to our second. Okay. So that is always step 1. Step 1 is always divide. Divide each whole into how many equal parts? Well, we divided into 4 equal parts. Equal parts of one whole. So how many equal parts to get us here to the number 1? Okay, and that was 4. Step 2 is label the tick marks. So step 2 is label. All right, so right here I've got 1/4. I go 2 ticks, 2/4, 3 ticks, 3/4, and I'm at one whole. But now what do I do with the rest? Well, I keep moving forward, okay? So I'm at 0 to 1 whole is 4/4. Go my next tick, and that gives me 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, and then 2 wholes, or 8/4. Okay? And that's just from counting my ticks away from 0, okay? Now we need to plot 6/4. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my 6/4. I'm going to give it a nice plot, and I'm going to label that step 3 is plot. And then we need to think that how many 1/4 are 6/4? Well, how many do we have to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 1/4 are equal to 6/4, okay? I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and this is going to be 10.5 part 1. Okay, this is just the more in-depth explanation. Check out the next video, and I'll give you a couple more examples.